With the Yankees and Red Sox poised to do battle for first in the American League East and the runner-up likely to snag a wild-card spot, the Jays set out last offseason to acquire the depth required to be competitive with the rest of the pack. Things have not gone according to plan. Lingering injuries to Josh Donaldson and Marcus Stroman, the Jays' best position player and starter from a season ago, and the loss of all-star closer Roberto Osuna are enough to have altered the course of the season. Add a host of underperforming players into the mix, including a starting rotation, save for J.A. Happ that was supposed to be one of the best in the league, and the Jays find themselves 10.5 games out of the second wildcard spot with 4 teams ahead of them. More, John Gibbons on Robert Osuna's suspension. We knew something was coming down, so, with 5 weeks still remaining until the July 31st non-waiver trade deadline and 8 games left on the schedule, rebuild-fueled trade rumors and talks of firing manager John Gibbons already swirl. People have always said, well, the guy looks like nothing bothers him, or, wake up Gibbons, the Jays skipper told Sporting News. That's not accurate, but it's just kind of my personality because, you know, we all feel it when things go bad because everybody wants to be successful. In our business you live and die by the scoreboard and you're at it every day, so it does eat at you. And I will say this. The losses wear on you a lot more than the good feelings you get from wins, just for whatever reason. The Blue Jays enjoyed a nice reprieve twice in recent weeks. They completed a 4-game sweep of the abysmal Baltimore Orioles, averaging 6.75 runs per game. A week later they swept a good team in the Washington Nationals, averaging 5.33 runs per game, including a 2-0 win over Max Scherzer. Sandwiched between, however, the Jays were swept in Tampa with an anemic offense scoring just 1.67 runs per game. Unfortunately, their play and results against the Rays are more the norm for Toronto this season than the pair of impressive sweeps. But Gibbons is not one to overreact. I pretty much leave them alone, Gibbons said of his players. Now, if it's from a lack of effort, concentration, whatever it is, going through the motions, that's different. But with this particular group, and there's some new guys on the team this year but the core guys are here, I've never had a problem with that because they show up every day. And nobody's good every day. Gibbons relies instead on the veteran leadership in his clubhouse to manage things when times get tough. For 14-year veteran Curtis Granderson, that has as much to do with how he carries himself as it does with what he says. The way that you handle yourself and the way that you are perceived during these situations when things aren't necessarily going the way you want can definitely carry a lot of weight, explained Granderson. So, if I come into the clubhouse and I'm hanging my head and I'm complaining about this and about that and I'm causing a lot of friction, well, then there's the possibility that some people may follow suit with that. But obviously I come in and day out realizing that something could happen today completely different than what happened yesterday, and that's the cool thing about this game of baseball. Russell Martin, who, like Granderson, has been an all-star multiple times and is now towards the tail end of his career, takes much the same approach. I feel like my attitude is pretty consistent. I do have moments where I get frustrated and I get pissed off and I get a little angry, but overall, I think my attitude stays pretty consistent. So, I'm not really doing anything really different day in and day out. Granderson and Martin take it upon themselves to approach teammates if they think it is warranted, but both recognize a balance must be struck between offering advice and information overload. I think it's a mix because in this game you obviously have a lot of people that are wanting to improve everybody's situation, offered Granderson. Sometimes you can end up having too much information. So, you have to pick and choose and say, well, I've seen that 4 or 5 people are talking to this player. I'm going to wait back. More information at this time isn't beneficial to him. More, Blue Jays place Aaron Sanchez, Jamie Garcia on disabled list, but when you can kind of take a step back and go, okay, this person's searching for it, no one seems to be going to him, then maybe you step in. And sometimes that person's going to come to you. Frustration can mount when a team is struggling to put up wins, and it would be easy for players to become mired in it. For Martin, stepping away from the diamond with teammates and hitting the reset button is sometimes the best remedy. I feel like the best thing is just maybe going out and having a drink and just talking to the guys and just hanging out, he told Sporting News. I feel like when a team is together and they hang out together, they tend to care for each other a bit more, and it isn't necessarily going to translate to wins, but as long as you feel like everybody's on the same page and still trying to win as a team and not just playing for themselves. That's the scary thing, when teams stop caring about what happens for the team and just start caring for their own personal stuff. To me, that's the one thing I never want to happen. In my career, I don't think I've had many games or many teams I've played on where that's happened. But that's like the one fear. And I never want that to be the case. Martin himself has been in a prolonged slump this season and is currently slashing .169, .324, .301. A traditional slow starter, Martin found himself sharing time with Luke Miley in what initially was an attempt to provide the 35-year-old catcher with regular rest. One wonders if perhaps this interfered with him getting his timing down at the plate. I think I'm just getting older, so the workload needs to be lessened a little bit, even though my mind wants to go every single day, explained Martin. And if I am in a slump, I think the key is to not really accept the fact you're in a slump. And baseball is weird. You can go 8 games without getting a hit and hit a crazy amount of balls on the screws and not get hits, and if you're thinking about getting hits, I guess it kind of depends on your view of what a slump is. The word slump, however, is not really a part of Martin's lexicon. But I don't really like the term slump because you're accepting the fact you're probably not going to do well, the veteran backstop continued. There are times when hits are not there. You feel like they're just not there for you. And it can be frustrating. It can be lonely. And it's even worse early in the season because you look at the scoreboard and it's just in your face. The stats just stare at you, you just have to have a strong belief. You have to just believe in yourself. Martin says that for him, it's important to not chase hits because that leads to swinging at bad pitches, which only makes matters worse. Granderson agrees that sometimes less is more. It's interesting because you always have a situation where you don't want to be the guy that's not trying. Sometimes we try too hard, stated Granderson. And we always have to try to revert back to those kid days, those youth days, those days when it was going good and what was I doing then? And a lot of times you hear the response, I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't thinking anything. I wasn't trying too much. So maybe sometimes less is more. And that could mean, maybe, a few less swings, a few less ground balls, maybe less video, maybe we show up a little later. All these different things are options that each individual kind of has to decide which one works for them. Despite the grind, and regardless of how the rest of the season plays out, the Blue Jays promise to take the field each game mentally and physically prepared to do battle. And while it won't appear on any stat line at the end of the season, the younger players are learning how to deal with adversity at the big league level by those who have been there before and figured a few things out along the way. I always enjoy watching something funny, you know. Granderson shares. Whether it's Simpsons reruns or Martin the television show reruns, something comedic just to make you laugh and smile, said Granderson. Because you had a chance to play baseball today, and although we didn't win or lose, and obviously there's a lot of pressure on us to do it, it's never because we didn't try or because of the effort. Sometimes things just don't go your way. And I got to remember that the guys that are wearing the other uniform get paid a lot of money to try to beat us also. They're not just going to let us happen. So, once you can just take a step back, and I think that comes with time, because I remember being 24 or 25 and didn't always have that approach and mindset. Those might be certain things that I say to guys.